I didn't get any tissues.
You didn't get any tissues?
No,
that's okay.
so I might be using my top.
That's okay. Well, maybe you won't.
I'm serious though. This morning, what was the name of that cafe that you sent me to? Plant Power.
Plant Shack.
Plant Shack. A Libra or a Luber or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting there out at the front. I had the tofu scramble.
Yeah.
Have you had that?
Not yet.
No. Okay. I had that, and this like spirulina smoothie is really good. We're recording from Majorca.
Okay.
This is actually. Did you said okay?
Thank you for telling me.
Like you didn't know. For the listeners, we're recording from Majorca, and for Axel, it seems. Second podcast we've done together on an island.
True that.
So I wonder where the next one will be. But I was sitting there this morning. It was a great recommendation, and I get to the end of your book, and I found that letter from Mari, and it got me. I was crying as I'm eating my tofu scramble, and it was heartfelt, but it also it really let you into her experience and the experience of a caregiver.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people reading your new book, either they themselves have experienced that as a caregiver, or perhaps someone who has been through a health issue like yours has had people around them offering support, and perhaps it's not until you've gone through that experience that you realize how much the people around you give up.
Very true. That's why we wanted to have her part of the story also inside of the book. And yeah, I'm sorry that I feel for you that while you had your scrambled tofu, I had tears in your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it was sad, but it also made me feel good that her experience was being seen.
Yeah.
I think what I was reading through the story was that she felt, and I can understand how a caregiver would be in that position where you want to be seen for everything you're doing, but it's not about you.
Yeah, that was for me also the hardest part to write. I remember starting with the book, and I told my co-author, who's my best friend, like those parts we really need to nail, because I don't want to go back to it, because every single time when I tell the story and I share her side of the experience, like every single time we were there bawling our eyes out. And that is also now looking, connecting the dots, the most beautiful healing happened between the two of us, and how it turned out for her, and how everything, that's why I called the book like this, how everything happened for us. Like now, couple years later, we can sit there and laugh about it, and like, oh, now it makes so much sense.
How do you think you would have reacted or responded if at the kind of depths of this journey, you had someone say to you, Axel, maybe this is happening for you?
I had a moment like this. Couple people actually telling me, including my brother, and he's my older brother, so I kind of have to respect him.
Who, might I say, kind of looks like your twin.
Yeah, he looks like my twin. Just the only difference is he's
a little bit shorter.
A lot shorter.
I mean, you're tall. You're what, 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah, 6'2".
Okay.
Yeah. 6'2", and I remember him walking into the hospital room, and I'm gonna share some clips a bit later on how I was speaking during the time, how it felt, where was my mindset at the time when I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but that man. He walked into the room every single time with a smile on his face. I don't know how he did it. One day he walks into the room with a college block, and I was suffering. Like, I was strong and everything, but there was a time when it was just pain, especially this initial phase when I call it the why me phase. That phase drove me nuts. Asking myself, the whole time, why did it happen to me? Why did it happen to me? What did I do wrong? And I tried to like come up with stories. Maybe I did this wrong and this wrong. And my brother really led me more into like, hey, one day you will be looking back and you will see this was only such a short amount of your time, and it will make you so much stronger, and it will teach you so many lessons. He told me to write this book. He came with an empty college block. He thought that's how you write a book, and that's how it started. At the end of the day, he came with an empty college block. Axel, I think you should write a book.
What a gift to be able to hold space for that vision for you.
Yeah, my first initial reaction was to throw it away. I was like, I'm not writing a book. My glass is empty. I cannot right now write a book. But he planted the seed. And a couple of weeks later, I started writing down what am I grateful for and all of those things in those journal books. So in this journal. So to answer your question, there was a time, if you would have told me like this is happening for you, I would have told you you're crazy. And I think that's okay. But I'm also incredibly grateful that some people, including my brother, pushed me to that direction, to open my heart for that. And really, just the simple shift from asking myself, why could this happen for me, already changed the conversation. Because this part, and I know many people who go through similar things, you ask yourself, why me? Like, what did I do? And so many other people, like, do you know why it happened? Nobody could give me an answer. I would ask doctors pretty straightforward, like, listen, I'm 25 years old. I'm 26. I'm eating my veggies. I'm exercising. I'm vegan. I do all of those things. Why would that happen to me? Well, like, what did I do? And they're like, well, in German, since we had a bit of German lesson here before, we have something, we call it PP, persönliches Pech. It translates to personally just being unlucky. Like, you were just unlucky. I was like, great. So shifting that whole mindset to this is in some way happening for me, and there is also beauty in that moment, truly helped me.
Why do you think we like to sit in the why me?
That's a really good question. I think we want, it's a natural response to understand what is going on and can I do something to prevent. Like I write in the book that every emotion happens for us. So it's potentially just trying to protect you, understanding where's this coming from so that I can avoid it in the future. I think that's really natural, but it drove me nuts.
And it's uncomfortable to sit with this uncertainty of not having an answer.
Exactly. But one day I needed to accept that I won't have an answer, or I make my answer up.
I had an experience very recently, which is nothing like what you went through, but I'm not sure if I've shared this with you.
Oh, you told me briefly about
where I basically woke up and had zero hearing in my left ear. Unexplained. And it was diagnosed as idiopathic, sudden sensory neural hearing loss, which idiopathic by definition is essentially unexplainable. There's no clear diagnosis. There's no understanding of, in 90% of cases, it's considered idiopathic, where there's no clear reason as to why you've got this. And I remember sitting in that space, even with that, thinking, why me? And spending so much time on dwelling on the fact that this had happened and being unable to kind of process it and move forward and accept it. And then also going into that kind of negative territory of thinking it's all doom and gloom. I'm not going to get better. I'm going to lose my hearing in the other ear, and I'm not going to be able to hear ever again. And I'm not going to be able to hear my children speak. I'm not going to be able to hear Tawny speak. And that like cycle of fear. just perpetuating over,
cycle of fear. Yeah.
over and over and over. It's so easy to find ourselves in that space, but it's not really serving us.
100%. It's like a loop. How's it now?
It's back. I can hear you in both ears.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I had a very small taste of having an acute health issue. You know, as I said, nowhere near to the extent of what you experienced, but I went through that period of why me, being a kind of victim mindset, I would say.
Yeah.
Through it. Being unable to accept it and not focusing on the things I could control, but focusing on all the things I couldn't control.
That's the tricky part. If you focus on the things you can't control, you literally feel like a victim and there's no power whatsoever. But I think it's also natural that it happens. I want to take you to that time, and also the listeners, for those of you who haven't listened to the first episode, because I was curious to see how was I talking, how was the whole journey, because now it's 2025. That was end of 2021. It's been a minute. So seeing that, I'm not going to share too much now. I'm just, maybe your editors, they can put it somewhere here. And I want to share it with you, Simon, because I just watched it. So I'm gonna hand you over the phone. This was October. Well, that was one of the toughest nights in my entire life. I thought the pain would be becoming less, but oh boy, I was wrong. It was one of the toughest nights. You could shift to the side. Yeah. I found like one sleeping position with 4.5 pillows under my knees. That is, that makes it possible to sleep. So what I will do is cancel all my meetings for today. I think the injection just helped getting rid of the pain in the sciatic nerve, but my entire lower back just hurt so much that I couldn't sleep at all. I slept maybe an hour. At that time, I thought all I felt was back pain, and I will forever remember this moment.
This is before the diagnosis.
I had no idea what was going on.
You're in Bali at this stage.
No. I was in Europe. I had no idea what was going on. All I felt was back pain, out of the blue, nothing. So I went to the hospital, telling them I have back pain, and they're like, okay, we'll give you an injection so you don't have pain anymore. We don't know what it is. Just get out of here. So I did that, and it got better for like a couple of hours, but then it got so much worse. I will forever remember how I was standing in an elevator in a medical center, and I couldn't stand anymore. Like the pain was so strong, I needed to like sit in the elevator, and the doctor who I was about to visit was with me in the elevator, but I didn't know. So they get me into her room, and she says, well, I don't know what you have, but it's for sure not back pain. I think your appendix is about to burst. Here's what I said to Mariana, my ex-partner. I was like, oh my gosh, my appendix. I won't be able to exercise for at least a couple of weeks, and I won't be able to work.
Didn't know what was coming.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You're like, remember that moment? Kind of funny how life sometimes works. And the perspective is everything. And then, well, maybe you see a couple of pictures of me. This is me in the hospital with some coconut water and getting my first surgeries. Nobody really understood.
That's in Bali.
No, that's all in Europe.
Okay. But did the back pain start while you were in Bali?
No. I was in Europe at dinner with friends, and that's when it started. I had a vegan pizza, and I was like, the vegan pizza killed me.
So how many days after they thought it was your appendix did they diagnose it?
Well, so she told me you need to go to the military hospital right now, because you need surgery right now. Otherwise, you'll die very shortly. So I go to immediately from her office, I got to the military hospital, and they told
The military hospital, is that
there's
stand?
just one hospital where they're really quick.
Okay.
And it's a hospital designed for the military, but you can also go there as
A non-military.
yeah. So I went there, and they told me, well, it's clearly not your appendix. It doesn't hurt. We think it's something else. And I didn't really understand what they're talking about. All I cared about is get me out of this pain. They gave me very strong painkillers, and I couldn't feel the pain. From that point, I didn't really understand what was going on. They spoke to my family, they spoke to Mari, and she would protect me from the news because she knew there's not much I can do right now in this status. Anyway, and then this was probably one of the lowest moments of my life. I posted this online, and I think 500,000 people saw that story.
I need a private helicopter from Prague to Berlin, please, emergency.
Yeah. And the amount of people that reached out and tried to organize that for me was mind-blowing. Like, all my friends, everybody showed up. If you would have told me in that moment, life is happening for you, I would have told you,
fuck off.
Fuck off. Like, right now, I just want to be healthy.
Right.
And I mean, we're skipping a couple crucial moments.
We have time.
But that was the toughest time, and the time that I usually, when I go on podcast, skip for some reason. Maybe because I was heavily drugged and I couldn't understand much, but that was the most painful time. Like, not knowing what was going on, facing fear for the first time in my life, and me watching those videos, I see the fear in my eyes.
Well, when you say of dying,
yeah.
When you say fear, it was fear of dying.
Yeah. And I mean, at the beginning, when they said appendix, I was like, oh, okay, appendix. I know so many people. That's easy. But at some point, they started talking about, you know, I was looking around, and there was the department for oncology. I'm like, why am I here? Nobody said cancer. As soon as I started understanding it's the cancer word, and that word does something with you. Especially with my mom died of cancer shortly after I was born. Like, it activated me. As soon as that hit, I was like, okay, I'm terrified of dying here. This nurse, she gave me some Goggins love, and I needed it. I was triggered in the moment. I hated her in the moment. Now, if that nurse is watching, mwah, I love you. Thank you so much for triggering me. Then the next day, I was like, okay, let's just challenge myself. Let's just try to stand for 5 seconds. And you will see a video somewhere here where there was a nurse holding me. 5 seconds, sit down. I was exhausted. Okay, can I do 10 seconds the next day? And I truly believe this is what actually made the difference.
I recently ran my full labs through Function Health, and I have to say the results were eye-opening. Turns out my ApoB was higher than ideal, probably thanks to a little too much coconut yogurt. I also found out I was slightly low in copper, something that I would have never suspected without testing. On the flip side, my biological age came back 13.3 years younger than my actual age, a calculation based on the work of aging researcher Dr. Morgan Levine. So all in all, I've got a few tweaks to make to optimize my lipids and nutrient status, but overall my blood work says I'm doing pretty well. That's what I love about Function. You get access to over 160 biomarkers covering everything from hormones and inflammation to nutrients, toxins, cardiovascular risk, and more. And all your results are housed in one beautiful platform, all tracked over time. Once you get your results, you can make informed changes before small issues become big ones. To get started, head to functionhealth.com/Simon Hill. The first 1,000 people get a $100 credit toward their membership. That's functionhealth.com patreon.com/Simon Hill. You write in the book that we're all scared of dying. You specifically point out that we do things like we cross the road carefully.
Yeah.
We may not think about it every single day, but we're doing certain things strategically to not die because we're scared of it. We want to live. What's the difference between that, what someone experiences every day, versus the fear of death that you experienced?
First of all, I want to say that every emotion happens for us. Like every single emotion that we can feel is there for a reason. And at the end of the day, it's there to serve us and to send us a signal. In the book, I say, well, good that we have fear in general. If you wouldn't have fear, you wouldn't be here with us anymore. Like, how many times did you have a very stupid idea as a child and you didn't execute because of fear? So fear is protecting us in the day-to-day life. The reason, you feel those feelings when you go too close to the edge of a cliff. Good. The fear that I was experiencing was more, I think all of us experience that sometimes. The fear of you about to die. It feels like death. You're so terrified, so scared. I felt it sometimes, maybe in the past when a heartbreak, like separating from someone, that can activate the same kind of fear. It was not the first time in my life that I would feel that kind of fear.
Is it the death component that you were fearing, or is it the missing out? What
Death.
This would mean?
Death.
It was the
Just
death.
dying and leaving my loved ones there. When that hit, that would have been the worst time ever, telling me, hey, Axel, life happens for you. Later, when I got better, and that's something many people struggle with, it's one thing to survive something like this, whether it's cancer, a car accident. It's a whole different thing to thrive afterwards, to not live in fear for the rest of your life that this could happen again. That was incredibly challenging.
When you were in that early stage where you were thinking, why me? You were fearful of death, scared, frightened for your life. You said that's not the time where it would have been received well by you if someone said this might be happening for you. What, and I've asked you this before, but maybe your perspective on this has changed with time, or just for the purpose of hearing it again, if people caught our last episode. If you could go back right now, knowing everything that you know, and you had the chance to have a conversation with yourself in that moment where the fear was at its highest, how would have you showed up? Would it have been just being there? Would it have been saying something specifically that may have helped?
What a beautiful question. My first thought would be, there's not much saying needed in that moment. If I could go back to that room, I have a crystal clear picture of the room and the moment when I needed it the most. I would go back to the ICU, intensive care unit, because going through this is one thing. Doing it mostly isolated from people is a whole different thing. That was the biggest challenge, honestly. It was pandemic, and my immune system was so low that only one person at a time could come visit me. That was my brother, but he couldn't be there the whole day, and because of the pandemic, they had time restrictions. So there were moments where I was just in so much pain, and there was no one. It was just a white room and nobody there. In that moment, I would go back, if I could go back now, and just sit. And honestly, even encourage him to vent, to let it out. That is something, my brother is such a legend. Because at some point he said, Axel, I want you to complain. I want you to let your anger out, to scream, whatever, let it out. That was exactly what I needed in that moment, to really let it out. Just for a couple of moments. So I wouldn't give him a massive pep talk. I would, with what I know now, I would go back, be there, and if possible, encourage him to feel what he wants to feel and to tell me what he wants to do with his time, because I had so much time. I wish I would have used it a bit more intentionally, like learning a language or something, like something you've always wanted to do and now you have the opportunity to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad that you actually brought that up about encouraging him to feel what he needed to feel, because when I was reading the early part of your book, and I've heard you speak about the Japanese farmer.
Chinese farmer.
Chinese farmer.
Yeah.
And I'll get you to share that story. But something that I was kind of reflecting on was I appreciated the idea of not labeling an event as either good or bad. But what I was trying to reconcile, my mind was wrestling with, was when something happens that leaves us feeling sad or frustrated or angry. It seems to me that it's helpful to experience those emotions and not deny them.
100,000%.
And so when I was reading that story, I was thinking, I wonder if some people hear this idea of, okay, an event is neither good nor bad, maintain this kind of neutrality, that maybe they confuse that with numbness, not experiencing the full spectrum of emotions. But what I'm hearing is that two things can be true. You can experience the emotions, and the event can neither be good or bad.
100%. So grateful that you bring this up. I told you, looking back, that was one of the best things I've done. Expressing how I truly feel. And then afterwards, that's the empowerment part. After you expressed it, after you really felt it, now what? And that's when, the Chinese farmer comes into play, like reframing it, because you don't want to stay in that emotion, but you also want to express it. So, but before you can do that, you need to feel what needs to be felt.
Not deny it.
Not deny it. Like when my grandma died, that was one of those moments. I'm really grateful I took time to grieve, to feel, to process it. But then what? Then it's about reframing it. Then it's about giving it positive meaning. During that time, I was so inspired by Viktor Frankl and his story. And just having that role model gave me the hope, the perspective I needed. So to add to what you just said, I would bring a couple of books to read. And things for him that enable him to shift his perspective out of like me, this is why me, to let's just open up the space for what do you want to do with the time? What could be good about the situation? What is unique about the situation?
So leaving some possibility.
Some possibility, yeah. 100%. I think it would have been too early to like, you need to do 10 push-ups tomorrow and like run a mile and like, no. And my brother, I'm so grateful we have this conversation, because I don't think I give him enough credits for it. He really did all of the things perfectly. Like I remember it for the rest of my life. He's like, scream, I want to hear you like process it. This is horrible. Process it. And I was screaming and he was in the room and he's like, yeah. And then at the same time, he also knew when it was time to say like, okay, let's set some goals here.
What's his vocation? Or was this just coming to him intuitively, or?
I mean, I'd love to ask him. He has been following my content and personal development for quite some time. He listens to all of my podcast episodes. And,
So he's reminding you of the things that
yes. You know, he was like a mentor and reminding me of my own, you know, teachings and to walk my talk. And at the same time, right now he works in, don't know what the exact term is, but he works with a lot of people who have some sort of disabilities and need help in their day-to-day life. People who, you know, have MS, for example, and they need support. He goes into the families and sees, how can I support? So he's somewhat used to those.
working with people that are experiencing some big challenges.
Exactly. And yeah, literally he saved my life with those very simple but profound interventions.
So what would those books be if you were to recommend them?
Man's Search for Meaning, 100,000% by Viktor Frankl. I think that's a brilliant book. I wanna my own book now. Maybe this is happening for you, not to you. Another book that I think everybody should. David Goggins, You Can't Hurt Me. There's an entire chapter about a tough nurse, and she reminds me a little bit of David Goggins. She triggered the hell out of me during the hospital time, but she came to the right time when I needed it. So I would first make him read some, more hopeful books, but then also there is a time when you need to shift, and there is also space for some people like Goggins who push you a little, who trigger you a little. And this military nurse, I don't know if you remember the chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters of the book. This military nurse comes into the room. She speaks to my brother, and my brother was everybody's darling. In the hospital, everybody loved my brother because he's a sweetheart. He's one of the kindest people you can imagine. Very charming, very good looking. So everybody loved him, including this nurse who was actually working for the military, but then they have to volunteer in hospitals, or that's part of their training. So she came into the room, she spoke to my brother before, and he's a very proud brother, like, here's his Instagram, and look how he looked like, and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, interesting. Walks into the room and gives me a bit of tough love. She's like, oh, your brother showed me pictures from before this. You looked incredible. You had six-pack, and I'm just wondering, how did you do this? At that time, I can't walk. My first round of chemo has just started. I can't even go to the toilet by myself. Like, I'm pooping in my bed. That's how bad it was. Okay? And she asks me about my six-pack. And I'm like, well, I did CrossFit, I did, and she's like, be more specific. Like, what did you do? I'm like, well, I did squats, I did toes to bar, and she's like, okay, can you do it now? I'm like, what a stupid question. No. And I would get triggered, but I understood where she was going. She's like, okay, you can't do squats. If you're coaching someone who can't do squats, what would you tell them? Tell them like, okay, if you can't do a squat, how about maybe a glute bridge? And she's like, interesting. Can you do a glute bridge? And she knew I could, because that was my way of going to the toilet. She's like, okay, well, how about you do some glute bridges? You could do that, right? And it would help you to get better. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, do you want to get out of here? Do you want to get healthy? Do you want to be able to go to the out of this ICU place? And it's a horrible place. Like, you don't never want to end up in intensive care unit. It's wild. The things, the people, the situations you see or hear, in my case. I was like, yeah, of course I want to. She's like, okay, well, then you have to do those things. And then she moved on to, well, you can't do toes to bar, you can't do sit-ups, but can you pull yourself, the hospital beds have those, I don't know if there's a name, but it's like a string attached. You pull yourself up. She's like, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, I do that multiple times per day. She's like, okay, do it 10 times more often. So she gave me some Goggins love, and I needed it. I was triggered in the moment. I hated her in the moment. Now, if that nurse is watching, mwah, I love you. Thank you so much for triggering me. Because then the next day I was like, okay, let's just challenge myself. Let's just try to stand for 5 seconds. And you will see a video somewhere here where there was a nurse holding me. 5 seconds, sit down. I was exhausted. Okay, can I do 10 seconds the next day? And I truly believe this is what actually made the difference. Why I could recover so fast. Just this progressive overload, you know, from going to the gym. Just like a little bit more today, a little bit more. Without that nurse and without my brother also then pushing me. And at that time, there was space inside of me. I was somewhat more stable than before. Before it was like pure survival, get me into a safe hospital. When I had time to settle and to start processing it, then it was about empowerment and reframing it.
And hope, I imagine.
Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like my brother and I, we celebrated getting out of this ICU, intensive care unit, like we just won the World Cup. Because it was painful for me. There were people screaming, yelling, you know. My brother had to wear this protective outfit every single time.
Because it was during COVID.
Yeah. It was a pain in the ass. When I was able to go back to, you know, I just call it normal station. I don't know if there's a, you know,
general ward or something.
Yeah, whatever. To just experience a bit of a normal life. Both for me and my brother, that was already like, wow. And that's when I started seeing how all of this could happen for me. The psychological pain was greater than the physical pain during that time. I went through chemotherapy. It was challenging for sure, but the psychological part was way more challenging. Shifting it from a victim mindset to a creator mindset was way harder. And it started then when I realized, okay, even right now, there is something good about the situation. There is beauty in it. All of the sudden, I had time to watch all of my favorite tennis matches that I never had time to watch. I had this massive privilege to see very early in my life who are the people that really unconditionally love me. Who's showing up right now? Like the love from my brother, from my sister, from my family, from Mari was just, you'll never forget that feeling. I get goosebumps when I just think about that. You'll never forget that. That made my life so rich. Like forever I know like this is true love. Like I experienced true love. And I also started seeing, I was sharing a lot on Instagram during that time, just tiny bits like this is how I'm doing, this is how I make progress. Today I walked my first step again. Today I went to the toilet by myself. And and those things started to feel really, really good. You know, sharing the progress, and other people would tell me like, this is so inspiring. So slowly but surely, I could see how this could potentially happen for me. But it took a year or two to fully come back to full power. And now I can connect the dots. And I think it's important that we speak about that.
So with that perspective in time now, being able to reflect on all that you endured, the pain, the suffering, the fear, and then everything that you've gained from the experience. If you were going back into that room at the very early stages and you had the power of taking that challenge and that pain away from Axel, removing this experience, would you do that, or would you be robbing yourself of more?
Probably the hardest question I've ever heard. I'm just going to share my first thought. It was like, I wouldn't take it away. I needed to go through this. And it just had such a big impact already on the lives of so many. Sharing my story and how I turn it around inspired so many people and made them believe it's possible for them. So it's something like, what hits me every single time is when a mom sends me a picture of her son saying like, you know what, like this, your story is what keeps my son pushing right now.
Which comes back to possibility. Because I think for the kid who's seeing your story, a big chunk, I have to imagine, of him persevering is seeing and feeling possibility through your story.
Yes. 1,000,000%. And there were also the people who, there's this one snowboarder, I should know his name. He had cancer. And when I heard his story, people would send that to me. He had cancer, and a couple years later, he won the gold medal at the Olympic Games. When I heard that, I remember, I'm like, fuck, you can do that? I didn't know. So I don't think Simon and I would do it. I think I needed to go through this, and I think it made my life much, much better. And it saved some lives. I know that for sure. And it gave so many people already belief. And I think belief is one of the most important things that we need in our lives.
There's a quote I have here from Seneca. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And what I'm hearing from you is that your mind is stronger because of this experience.
Yeah.
And what I'm curious about is now, in your day-to-day, challenges are inevitable. They're going to keep coming.
Yeah.
In what ways do you feel you're now better equipped to take on emotional challenges?
Oh my gosh, how many hours do you have?
Or what happens when you are faced with an emotional trigger or challenge now? How does that experience affect the way that you choose to respond? And how might that look different to, say, Axel, age 24, prior to this experience?
Because of that experience, I have so much space now to hold any emotion. When fear is coming, I have a different threshold for what I'm capable of handling, because that's what I'm comparing it to. So it completely shifted how I deal with fear. I know when fear comes up, what to do with it. So if something, in my early 20s, would get anxiety about the most stupid things. That really doesn't happen anymore. And when it happens, I just shift quicker, faster. I would love to give you some real life examples, and I want to highlight, even though I went through all of this and I worked on a lot of things, sometimes I just catch myself still today where I'm like, I'm being triggered by like such a tiny little thing. Like, don't forget that. Don't forget what really matters, especially work related. But my capability to deal with fear and hold space, especially for other people who are going through similar situations, like obviously I couldn't do that without that experience. Like, I know what it's like to face death. I know what it's like when really shit hits the fan. So now I can hold space for people who go through that. And I mean, that is just, it's part of my calling, part of my work. I don't think before I could have not done that. I didn't have the space, the capability. So my fear muscle grew by a lot. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So what we don't want to do is run away from our fear, because then it will control us. We want to look at it, we want to face it, then dance with it, because it actually wants to serve us.
It would be an understatement to say that there's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to supplements. People are taking 10, sometimes 15 different products, each promising better health, but few delivering clinical doses or real science. That's why I've partnered with IM8. I serve on IM8's scientific advisory board alongside experts from NASA and the Mayo Clinic, helping ensure the formulas meet the highest standards of evidence and third-party testing. Their flagship product, Daily Ultimate Essentials, has now received over 10,000 five-star reviews globally, and for good reason. It's formulated not just to prevent nutrient deficiencies, but to optimize nutrient status for sustained energy, stronger immunity, and a sharper mental edge. And for my sleep aficionados, listen to this. A 12-week clinical study showed that 80% of participants taking Daily Ultimate Essentials reported better sleep. And I believe that's where everything starts. Good sleep drives better food choices, more consistent movement, and greater resilience to stress overall. Each serving delivers 92 clinically dosed ingredients, including essential nutrients like vitamin B12, zinc, selenium, iodine, vitamin D, choline, calcium, and vitamin K, replacing around 16 separate supplements. For listeners of The Proof, IM8 is offering 10% off your first order. Go to im8health.com and use the code SIMON at checkout. That's im8health.com and use the code SIMON, and you'll also receive a free welcome kit with your first purchase. IM8, evidence-based, comprehensive, simplified. So what's the practical reframe when you think about the relationship with fear and how yours has evolved? And you talk about helping people now that are experiencing or fearful of something or have anxiety about something, they're worrying about something. Yeah. And I think in the book you mentioned that 97% or some high number of things we worry about.
Yeah. About 90% of the things you worry about never become reality. Like if you think just right now, when you're listening, when you're watching, how many times in the past did you worry about something and it never became reality? And you'd actually track it down. Like you could write an entire book about how many times you worried about something, it never became reality, but you suffered.
You suffer for something that doesn't end up happening.
We all do this every single day.
That's anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, by definition, almost.
That shows you how powerful your mind is, and hopefully we'll get some time to talk about that later. But I want to be really practical, and I love also just sharing real life examples of what helped me, what helped others in those moments, because going through cancer, one thing, healing it, another, then living with the thought that it could happen again, terrifying. It can be terrifying, and it makes people suffer, and it made me suffer. Like I do the treatment, everything is clear, I'm cancer free. I get the piece of paper that confirms, hey, therapy was very successful, there's no cancer present anymore. Couple days later, my back starts hurting. And I'm like, no way I'm going to do this again. And I felt the anxiety. I felt the fear. I was like, oh no, I can't do this again. I can't do this another time. That was my conversation that I then just witnessed. Okay. And over the next couple of weeks and months, I had to work on this a lot, because I knew, like, I can't live life like this. Not every single time when something hurts, I now have to, rush to the hospital. Like, I can't live, I don't want to live like
There's no freedom in that.
There's no freedom in that. There's no freedom in checking every single day your blood work. I don't want to live like this. Yeah, it's important to do the things that you need to do, what is recommended by your oncologist. I don't say avoid it. I just say we cannot live afterwards for the rest of our lives in fear. I was like, I'm not doing this. So here are a couple of practical things I did and that I would also recommend to other people. First of all, if you can, get a therapist. If you cannot get a therapist, talk to other people about it. Often just speaking it out, what your fear is, you hear your own BS. Your own belief system, of course. And your own bullshit sometimes as well. So me just being able to share it with other people, like this is right now what's going on, that was already calming me down. And they would know that this happens. They're like, it's just another one of those. Like, calm down right now. There's not much you can do. If it gets worse, we'll go see a doctor. But right now, it could also just be one time I was feeling pain in my stomach, and it was one of the early symptoms I had as well before all of this happened. So I had back pain and I had this shooting pain in my stomach. Like, it's weird to describe, but it almost felt like my stomach was about to burst. Like so much pressure. It was all tumors. And one day I had I started eating foods with more fiber again. You know, hospital food, although Mariana cooked a lot for me, I still sometimes ate the hospital food. And then introduced broccoli sprouts into my diet again. Beans. And my stomach was uncomfortable. And I'm like, no, it all happens again. And Mariana was like, what if you just need to fart? What if you just bloated? Yeah, I was just bloated, you know? But talking about it, asking for help. I'm so grateful that I had a therapist at that time who has seen this many, many times. And he could really direct me, this is what is happening right now. So speaking to a therapist, speaking to friends about it, what is really going on for you, that already helps. My therapist introduced something to me that is called act as if psychology. We really faced the fear. The fear was, it could happen again.
Maybe.
Right? He really made me look at the fear. He's like, okay, let's look at the fear. Let's not try to put it into, hide from it. Let's really look at what is the fear and let's track it down. So I'm like, okay, my fear is that it comes back and I die. That's my fear. In that moment, he's like, can you see how this fear is actually trying to protect you? Right? It's not going to, this emotion is not trying to harm you. It's trying to protect you. Can you see that? And I'm like, yes, of course. Well, it makes logical sense. You would want to be prepared. Right? I understand why we have this fear. And then he asked me, well, there's also another possibility, which is maybe, and that's where it clicked for me, maybe it won't come back. And for the next 50, 60, 70, 80 years, you lived in fear that it will. How would that be? And I pictured myself being 90 years old and wasting 60 years of my life living in fear and for it to never come back.
And what regrets do you have then?
I could see in that moment how it shifted. This act as if psychology. Okay, I have no other choice to act as if everything is gonna be not just okay, but amazing. I'm gonna live like I'm healthy and I'm all good. I had my therapist was also the person who said, let's not call it cancer anymore, because it's a word that brings a lot of heaviness, especially with my background story. But for most people, when you hear cancer, people freak out. He said, how about we call it your teacher? I was like, yeah, it's much fucking better.
Now that's
much better.
That's a reframe.
My teacher. Oh, I love teachers. I'm a teacher. I love teaching. So your teacher came, taught you your lesson. Now it's time to move on. And I know I saw in your face the question, what are the lessons that your teacher taught you? But because this was, I want to share what really helped me. And I think it can help a lot of people. It's asking for help. If you can get a therapist, if you cannot, there are a lot of free resources as well, including your friends and including your family. Tracking down fear and really thinking the thought until the end, seeing where this is going, and just understanding, why is it happening? Okay, it wants to protect me. Like there are no good and bad emotions. There are emotions that you want to experience more often, but even the bad emotions, they're trying to signal you something. In my case, it was really valuable, okay, to actually take responsibility and like, in that case, here's what I would do. Here's how I would deal with it. I'm prepared for it.
What I'm hearing is an immense amount of curiosity. Curiosity towards the fear.
Yes. Not trying to run away from it, but dancing with it. Actually looking at it. The conversation you're most afraid of is probably the conversation you should have next. Like there's so much freedom. The thought that scares you so much, that is the thought that you should look at right after this podcast is finished. Because it's like one chapter of the book is called The Greatest Thief of Joy. And it's fear. That's the fear chapter, by the way. It's fear. Fear of failing, fear of it returning, fear of dying, fear of not being enough. But there's all the beauty. When I looked at that and I decoded that and I found positive framing in that, that's when my cup was full again. That's when I also started sharing about my journey. There is this beautiful quote. I'm not 100% sure. I might need your help here if I can remember it 100% correctly. But fear has two meanings. Have you ever heard that?
I read it in your book.
Fear has it's a quote by Ziglar. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So what we don't want to do is run away from our fear, because then it will control us. We want to look at it. We want to face it. We want to then dance with it, because it actually wants to serve us. And since then, I don't think often, and I don't really have that fear anymore, that it comes back. Yesterday, my girlfriend was asking me, like, but you still do your checkups and everything? And I could sense that she has more fear about it coming back than I have, because I really don't have fear anymore. Because I looked at it. I'm now dancing with it. It makes my life more beautiful, the whole experience. That's when you, I think, complete the circle.
And how does that relationship with fear, how has that changed the lens at which you look at challenges or what others may describe as problems?
Well, I told you earlier, there's still challenges, problems that I completely make up in my head, and there are like sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, did I just really get irritated or frustrated because of that? To answer your question, I almost celebrate when I see that this is causing fear inside of me, because I know there is so much growth behind that. So if I'm afraid of doing something, I know there is so much growth behind that if I look at it. So what I'm saying is I'm not running away from it anymore. Especially, I don't know how it is for you. When I started my journey, podcasts and all of it, I was terrified of feedback. First time I published a YouTube video, her name was Hildegard. She said, "Why are you even doing this? This is so bad." I stopped for a while because of that comment. I was so afraid of judgment, so much fear around that, then nowadays, also because of that experience, wouldn't do much. And at the same time, to answer your question, is I would want to look at it. If I'm afraid of something, I want to look at it. Why am I afraid of it? When I host retreats, I used to be afraid of asking directly for feedback. How are you experiencing this? I noticed this a couple of retreats back because my assistant, she's the opposite. She always wants to know, like, how are you doing? How is this? What is it? She even asked, what do you not like? Right? And you can make stuff so much better when you get direct feedback, when you don't take it personally. But it was uncomfortable for me. I was afraid of that.
So what was your story that you had built around feedback from other people?
If I don't get positive feedback, I'm doing a terrible job. Now it shifted to, I really looked at this. I'm like, even if I do my best possible job, I will still sometimes receive negative feedback.
And that, I mean, I would almost question, is it negative feedback or is it just feedback?
Exactly. But that's what fear can do with us, right?
Yeah.
It can take us places where there's no power whatsoever. Then we stop doing the thing that we actually wanted to do. It's the greatest thief of joy. I had because of that experience, now I had just my whole relationship with fear has changed. It's such a beautiful thing if you let it be your teacher.
Yeah, it is a mirror. It's reflecting back these parts of your life that you get to look at and grow through.
100%. I had the fear, like I just told you, the fear of judgment. And at the end of the day was like the fear I'm not good enough. So if I would get negative feedback on my podcast in the past, it would hurt me. Like I would get affected by it. Now I have a whole different relationship with fear and that kind of judgment. I know, for example, some of my favorite books in the whole world, they receive. You had Robin Sharma on your podcast, and by the way, I felt really good when you were talking about me in the episode. I'm like, Robin Sharma, one of my favorite authors on planet Earth. Thank you, Simon. He knows my name.
And I believe he listened to our episode. So
really,
there you go.
Yeah, I love that man. So his books, I'm like, how could anybody leave a 1-star review for any of his books? But they do, right? And the same thing might even happen to me. And just accepting that, acceptance of how things are is a crucial part in healing journeys. A crucial part in our growth journeys. Accepting this is how it is. You will receive, why being afraid of it? I will receive negative feedback. I receive negative feedback every single day. Accepting it instead of running away from it. I try to like push it away. Don't even tell me about this. And I don't want to look at this. When I changed that, my whole freaking life changed. And now we have even less negative feedback because I want to know, like, what is it that you don't like about this?
Particularly if it's quote unquote negative feedback coming from someone you respect.
Yes.
That loves you.
Yes.
Because at least in my experience, that's a different type of negative feedback to comments on social media. Sometimes comments on social media can be instructive and from a place of love. But as we know, often social media is kind of an environment that's conducive to negative comments for the sake of being negative. Like leaving negative comments not to help Axel, but to try and, cause some sort of pain or a hit at your ego. But the area where I think kind of negative feedback in our lives can be really helpful is the person that we know loves us, who is like, hey, Axel, this could be hard for you to hear, but as your friend that loves you, and then blah, 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 proceed to highlight something that I've observed or someone they've observed, can be helpful in that we all have blind spots.
Yeah.
And we want to be around people that hold us accountable, but from a place of love.
100%. It's one of the most beautiful exercises I've ever done. Everybody listening, watching, do the following. Pause the episode. Please return afterwards. Otherwise, Simon will be very sad. Ask the 3 closest friends you have. Ask them, what do you think are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And tell them to be very honest. In that feedback lies so much growth, so much power, so much potential. And you're overcoming your fear. Your biggest fear. I don't know what your biggest fear is, but I know we are all terrified. We are all afraid of something. And looking at it, dancing with it, facing the fear you have, can save you years of unnecessarily suffering.
Yeah, I think some of our fears overlap, particularly as people that are posting things in the public forum. Fear of looking good, fear of judgment comes with this territory.
What would you say is your biggest, that costs you the most amount of life quality?
Fear of looking good. So holding back, playing small, which I think can be difficult for people, potentially people that listen to the show. Maybe they may not see that because they see, okay, and same with you, oh, here's this person posting things online and seemingly has unlimited confidence. But I can tell you that is not the case. And I more often than not feel very uncomfortable about posting things online and sharing things and kind of hold back and second guess, who am I to talk about that or have an opinion on that. And so those are the types of I know they're irrational. And like you said, when you speak to someone about them, I agree with you what you said earlier. Often that is enough just to go, actually, that is an irrational thought. I'm spending far too much time censoring or wearing a mask, right? Because I want to please the audience or people please, right? Yep. And there's so much energy that goes into putting a mask on in all these different situations. I am getting so much more comfortable in, and also just realizing it's much more effortless and easier to just proceed through different environments without any masks on. Yeah. Not having to put a mask on, take it off, put it on. Who am I going to be now in this moment? Who am I going to be in this moment? Yes. Like, that is an energy draining process. So yeah, I think fear of looking good is like towards the top of that list in terms of every day, particularly with this show.
I had the fear. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have a fear we won't be good enough and therefore we won't be loved. That's one fear we all share. Some people then call it imposter syndrome. There are all kinds of names for it. At the end of the day, we all have a biologically fear of not being good enough. The question is, do you want to face it or do you want to run away from it? And in that, looking at your fears, oh my gosh, there's so much growth potential. I had this fear that my English isn't good enough because I'm obviously not a native speaker. When I started my social media journey, for some reason, it felt really true to do it in English, even though German would have been much, much easier. And then this fear came up that my English wasn't good enough. Like that was the belief. My English is not good enough. And so every single time when I then made a mistake on a podcast or in a conversation, I would get in my head. And that's probably the same place you were just talking about. Like when you get in your head, you're usually dead. There's this Tony Robbins quote. If you're in your head, you're dead. And although it's triggering, it's very true. So I would get in my head whenever I make a mistake. And at some point I faced it, this fear that I have that my English is not good enough. I tracked it down. I did this process we were talking about a bit earlier. And I asked myself, is that really true? I did a reality check. Is that really true? How's it affecting my life? And what could be how can I reframe it so that I actually truly believe it? And the reframe then was, well, my English isn't perfect, but my German is also not perfect. And I'm actually very talented when it comes to languages. That's my new story. So I don't beat myself up when I make a mistake in English, because I also don't do that when I make a mistake in German, right? So that really, really helped me. But facing it is, I think, where it starts, and that I don't think most people do that.
Yeah, and I've also, I mean, over the years, come to the realization that that fear that I experience is often a good sign that I'm pushing myself, and I'm not being too comfortable. Like I'm risking to a degree, which I think is important.
Yes.
Is having the quality of being prepared to take some risk, being prepared to feel uncomfortable.
Mini risks is how they call it in psychology. And in my journey afterwards, I had to take so many mini risks because I spent months isolated. I couldn't go meet people because contact with them could have killed me. They were super strict with tests and everything, because when you do chemotherapy, or the kind of chemotherapy that I was doing, my immune system was so low that certain infections can just kill you. So you want to avoid them. You want to avoid crowds. You want to avoid meeting people. Everybody had to do a COVID test before they could see me. And like, then to go see other people afterwards, that was for me that was a risk for me. But I knew I'm going to face my fear. Okay. And I started with meeting a couple of people. I started going to restaurants again. And then I went to San Siro, which is one of the biggest football stadium in the world. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. It's like 85,000 people. I'm like, okay, I've healed this. But those kind of mini risks, they add up, and they unload so much beauty and so much more life quality. Because imagine I would have isolated myself forever and never looked at it and never have taken those mini risks. It was also a risk for me to talk about this journey online. Because before that, my content was mainly, that's also how we know each other. It was health content, it was fitness content. Right? So there is this guy who's talking about health, fitness, who gets this rare form of cancer, dies. And like in my head, I was like, there's no way that I can even speak about anything anymore. I was in my head. Really happy I faced this and took a mini risk and started opening up about the story and the lessons I learned, and people absolutely loved it.
What has that taught you? That people were just as engaged, if not more engaged.
Way more engaged, Simon. It completely blew up. Everything blew up, and I had no idea. I shared it because I felt like I think this can be really, like, it's inspiring me to see that transformation. I think it could inspire some people to believe. Some of those videos, I think the first time I made a video, it went to like 2 million views, and I'm like, 2 million people like this. And the comments, the messages I would get, I was like, wow, I've never looked at it like this. It's actually quite a transformation. Quite inspiring. And I mean, 10, 15 million views on one video, and thousands of messages from people telling us how it made them believe that it's possible. Because really, like, if you really go back to everything and look at it, like, the odds were really low that I would make it. But I somehow did, and I'm grateful I went through this experience. I learned so much, and don't know if that's the answer to your question, but that felt authentic to share. not in a million years I would have thought that this story then will inspire millions of people. Then I understood, see, this is how it happened for me. Because early on, I always felt this calling of, that's also why I started posting content on social media. Like, it feels really good to share knowledge, to share life lessons, and put it on my podcast, on Instagram. And there is life being very generous, giving me such a difficult challenge that I can now teach about, that now serves so many more people than just me.
It has to speak to the number of people who are stuck in that earlier phase of pain and suffering, and are looking for hope and possibility. So if you're there now, or when they first stumbled across your content, well, here's someone who's providing inspiration and practical ways of thinking, reframing to shift from that space to a space where you, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, you were able to thrive. And clearly from the engagement that you're getting on social media, I'm sure that's a large chunk of people that have been following your journey.
So now I can connect the dots and like, this is why this happened for me. And to the people who are going through something like this right now, I think one of the most important things that you can do is to create a compelling vision of the future. To believe there is something better waiting for you. And that is something you can't just teach. It is not, like a very practical thing to do. It takes spirituality. It takes faith. It takes courage to believe it's possible. But your belief, I'm sure you on this podcast, you've spoken about placebos and how powerful your belief can be. Like, so powerful. There's this one story I recently quoted, where there was a guy who thought he was part of a clinical trial for antidepressants. He thought he was taking antidepressants, but he was part of the placebo group. So he was taking sugar pills not sugar pills, but placebos. And he was processing a breakup, and he took 29 of those pills to commit suicide. They found him, rushed him to the hospital, critically low blood pressure. He was sweating. He was in shock. They thought he's about to die. Until the leader of the clinical trial came and told him, you're part of the placebo group. Within hours, it shifted. That's how powerful your belief is. So everybody going through these times, through what I call winter, you need to believe, you need a compelling vision for the future. So create a vision board. Look at the things you still want to do. I did this in my hospital room with the help of Mari. She would say like, hey, send me some pictures, things you want to do, and we will make you a vision board in your room. And I had pictures from the beach, somewhere in Australia, Bali. I want to go to the Australian Open. So I had all of those things. I had belief. And then stories. That's why one of the last chapters of the book is just a chapter of people who turned adversity into a gift, who had it incredibly hard, and they believe that it didn't happen to them, but they can connect the dots now. It happened for them. Just like me, there's so many examples. And that's the stories that you need to listen to. Not doctors telling you like, oh, this is your survival chains and blah, 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 blah. But you need to believe. That's what's in your control.
Brings us back to maybe.
Maybe it's the best thing that ever happened to you. Maybe, we don't know. I even had it in other life situations. I'm sure you too. Like, I had breakups or like things not working out it felt like the world is breaking into pieces, but actually it's one of the best things that ever happened. Like, I'm so happy this relationship didn't work out. Or I once wanted to work at this bank. I over-prepared. I wanted this job. I did everything I could and got rejected. And I was like, oh. And now I'm like, thank you, God, I didn't end up working for this bank. You know, maybe good, maybe bad. We never know. You wanted to hear the story of the Chinese farmer?
I've only been waiting 90 minutes. We finally got there, mate.
We finally got there. So, story time. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer. This Chinese farmer had a son and one horse. And it was the good old days where you were dependent on your horse for, transportation, for food, for everything. And so his only horse ran away. He was living in a village, so the villagers came over and they're like, oh my gosh, you are so unlucky. Your only horse ran away. The Chinese farmer was really wise, so he said, well, maybe it's good luck. Maybe it's bad luck. Maybe it's good luck. Maybe my horse comes back, finds friends, right? And I have multiple horses. You never know. So the next day, his horse comes back and brings 3 other horses. His horse made friends. So everybody in the village is like, you lucky son of a gun. You now have 4 horses. You have such good luck. And he says, maybe. Maybe good luck, maybe bad luck. The next day, his son takes one of the horses for a ride. He falls off the horse and breaks his leg. Now all the villagers come and say, well, you're so incredibly unlucky. How will you do all of the work? How will you manage the farm? And without your son, you're so unlucky. And he says, maybe. The next day, war breaks out. And every young man has to go to war. Except the ones who are not able to. Like his son who just broke his leg. So, maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. We never know. All we can do is to have trust that it will work out for us in the future. It will serve us in the future, even if we don't understand right now. And that's a mindset. And honestly, when I say maybe life happens for you, I don't know if that's the truth. But I can tell you it is much more empowering, it's healthier, it's more fun to live like this, to believe this is happening for me. I don't know if it's the truth. I don't know if everything is, is planned and everybody has already their path figured out. But living like that for me is not an option. Living like everything is happening to me is not an option. Just accepting life like this, it wouldn't be fun. Everybody would understand it. And Cancer Simon wasn't the only thing. I was born and my mom passed away shortly after that. My father became an alcoholic after that happened, and for the rest of my childhood, I lived with an abusive caregiver. Like, I'm not just someone who says like, oh yeah, life happens for you and everything is rainbow and butterflies. I just know that living like all of this happened to me and living in a victim state won't make my life better. It won't serve me. It won't serve anybody. So let me have some, and it takes, by the way, zero courage to do that. It takes absolutely no courage to say, hey, I'm such a victim. I had such a rough childhood and everything happened to me. It takes no courage. It actually takes courage to try to see, okay, how did this serve me?
And it's not necessarily about forgiving those things.
100% not. It's also not about not feeling what needs to be felt. It's just about, what are you doing next? Are you living with the fear for the rest of your life? Are you living in victimhood for the rest of your life? Many children, many kids of alcoholic caregivers become alcoholics themselves. And I think we all have the choice to say, like, this ends with me. I'm not going to pass this on. I'm going to change. I'm going to reframe everything. All of us have certain cards in our hands. Like, someone hand them over to you at some point. Like, here, enjoy your life. It's up to us to make the best out of the cards we've been given. And like the Chinese farmer, we never know what are good cards, what are bad cards. Sometimes you get great, you think you get great cards, but actually they're shit cards. And you have to turn things around. Sometimes it's the other way around. We never know. But it's really up to us. We give life meaning. Nothing has meaning. We give life meaning. Whether something is good, something is bad, something happened to us, something happened for us, it's us. We frame things. We give things meaning. Nothing has meaning until we decide that's the kind of meaning we give things. And I, in my life, have decided all of those things, abusive caregivers, it happened for me. Doesn't mean I deserve this, but oh boy, it grew some muscle in me that enables me to help and serve people. I wouldn't be half as driven, nearly as driven without that experience. And I love that, like that's what my friends love about me, that I have drive, that I have passion to help. Like, I'm genuinely grateful, I really mean it, for this experience as a child in my teenage years. It made me the man, the person I am right now, that I love to be, that I'm so proud of.
And what a liberating perspective.
Yes, it's triggering as hell though. Whenever I say that out loud, it triggers people because I think some then believe like I deserved this. I don't believe I deserved any of this. It's not I didn't do anything wrong. Does that make sense?
What I hear from you is radical responsibility in terms of writing your story.
Yes.
And that brings us back to Viktor Frankl and responsibility, which you've shared on this show before, but perhaps we can go back there. Given that you mentioned Viktor Frankl before and we didn't double click on that.
Yeah.
Why is Viktor Frankl someone who you describe as a mentor, and what, particularly when it comes to this theme of responsibility, what are his qualities that you admire most? And what have you learned most from him?
The quality I admire most is the quality to turn adversity into a gift, to his insane amount of courage to find the positive, even in tough times. When you have someone who is going through so much pain, and it's just so incredibly unfair. A psychiatrist who goes through the Holocaust, sees how his family is being killed, and still somehow finds positive meaning and finds things that he still wants to do in life. That for me is wow. Like, I admire that skill. Someone who can turn adversity into a gift, like find positive meaning even when times are tough. I listened to his audiobook multiple times during the hospital because it was, if he can do it, I can do it. And I think we need to look for more of those stories. If he can do it, I can do it. If they can push through, if they can take mini risks, if they can find meaning after the concentration camp, after they were freed from the concentration camps, if he can do that, I can, and we all can. Because, like, to put things into perspective, my experience is not anywhere as unfair as what they went through. So taking this, that he was able to take responsibility with those cards, like, wow. If they can do that, I think we can. And nobody would have said anything to them or to him if he would have spent the rest of his life complaining, why me? I didn't deserve this. You're so evil. You're so bad. No, everybody would have said, sure, like, of course.
Fair enough.
But he said, that's not the response that I want to choose. And if you listen carefully to the word responsibility, you will hear response ability, your ability to respond to events. And he said it, he wrote it. He's like, that's not the response I want to choose. That doesn't make anything better. If anything, it makes it worse. That's also how I healed my abusive childhood. Like, I could now be angry. I'm not angry with my caregivers. You played exactly the role that you needed to play. Doesn't mean I deserved anything, but oh boy, I won't let my life be dictated because of that. What is the response that I want to choose? Hell, not that I'm a victim.
And if you're holding on to anger for the rest of your life, who is that hurting? Mostly you.
Mostly you. So I think whatever traumatic experiences we go through, we really have to take self-responsibility because it's the path to freedom. This happened for you in some way. Maybe if you're going through it right now, you won't be able to see it. That's completely okay, by the way. Give it some time, give it some space. And then the question is, how do you want to respond? What is your response that you're choosing to all of this? I hope for people to pick a response that is empowering, that makes your life better. When you turn the worst day of your life into the best day of your life. That's why I love Viktor Frankl so much. He took his worst day, turned it into his best day.
Amen to that. Maybe this is happening for you, not to you. Available online by the time this comes out.
Everywhere. And for those of you who are ordering, it's not just a book. You can upload wherever you order, save the confirmation number, because I want this to be more than just a book. I want this to be a movement, and we have free resources, meditations, guided visualization practices that can help you in any state, especially if you're going through tough times right now. There are pre-recorded coaching sessions, so it's so much more than just a book. So when you order, make sure to save your confirmation number. I'm sure Simon's team will put all the links down below. Yeah, and I'm curious, Simon, how did life happen for you? What is maybe one event in your life that felt painful at the time, felt like it happened to you, that now, looking back, connecting the dots, happened for you?
I would say my parents getting divorced when I was 10. So at the time, it felt like our family was getting ripped apart. We were living in America, and we ended up moving back to Australia. My mum wanted to be close to her family and sisters and our cousins. And so we did the whole 2-household sort of setup where I'd spend every second weekend with my dad, the rest of the time with my mom. And it really happened like overnight almost. So it seemed like we had this kind of quote unquote normal family dynamic to all of a sudden a abnormal, if you want to call it that, family dynamic and wasn't seeing my dad as much. And then my mum repartnered. And so there was this years of resistance against that and not really accepting it and seeing it as a really negative thing in my life. And honestly, it hasn't been until my 30s where I've actually really appreciated, or looking back, all of the positives that came out of that. My dad repartnered. He is far happier. He moved to a part of the world that he enjoys more. My mum repartnered with someone that she's more compatible with, better suited to, who ended up being like a second father to me and still is now. And I had this childhood where I had this experience in America and then back in Australia, and that opened up, a whole lot of opportunities, and also just gave me, I think, a taste for traveling the world, which I've, as you know, now I spend my entire life traveling. I love it. And that's opened up so many doors. So I don't know, if they hadn't have got divorced, we may have just stayed in America. And who knows what that would have brought me. It may have
Maybe this podcast wouldn't even exist.
This podcast might not exist, but something else might exist as well. But the fact is that when I look back on it, although definitely over the sort of first few years, it was hard and I saw it as a real negative thing, and I really just wanted them to get back together. Now I see it as like, it makes total sense. And I'm happy for them that they actually made the decision. They weren't happy to separate ways and go and find a happier path. And I just want my parents to be happy, and they are. So that would be one. Yeah. Thanks for flipping the question back on me.
No, I always love hearing those stories. And you were one of the people I was thinking about when we wrote this chapter of, empowering stories, because I also know that like your whole background story about starting the podcast, your dad's heart attack, and I'm like, this is actually something you could, you used it as a fuel to do good, to change your own health, to change your own life. And I want to say massive thank you also to this podcast, because I don't know if I ever told you, but after I got through treatment and I started rebuilding everything, I was binge listening your podcast. And there are so many, because I wanted to inform myself, like what are things that I can do to protect myself and also educate others. Like this is what's in our control. And I enjoyed like all the episodes you did about fasting and cancer prevention. Like as someone who had cancer, thank you. Like those episodes, I don't know if you get that feedback often, but those episodes meant the world to me at that time, because it felt really empowering. I won't remember his name. He works somewhere in Italy, but
Volta Longo.
Yes, exactly. I loved those episodes. I was driving in Thailand with my scooter and listening to those episodes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels so exciting, so empowering for people. And yeah, meant the world and still means. So
I didn't know
me
that.
being here on the same show is like, yeah, what has happened?
Yeah, well, that feels good. Thanks for sharing that with me. And I think your English is perfectly imperfect. And if you haven't been to the Australian Open yet, we'll have to make sure we do that.
I actually went.
Okay. All right, I'll take someone else. No, I'm glad that you ticked that off. Thank you, dude. I think this was awesome. It's great to have you back on. I really appreciate your authenticity and the courage that you have to share. And I know that so many people are going to be moved by this, and it's going to help all of us reframe the challenges in our life. So thanks for taking the time to write this book in English.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you everybody for listening, for sharing. The last time when we did an episode, the feedback was incredible. Like the people you have in your community are so loving, so kind, and yeah, I just want to say thank you for letting me
course.
share my story and empower.
Yeah, we'll see what island we're on next.
Yeah.
Let's go play paddle.
Mega. Thank you, brother.
There you have it, friends. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did and want to stay up to date with future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow on Apple or Spotify. Finally, thank you for showing up and the effort that you're making to take control of your health. I look forward to hanging out with you again in the next episode.